Ultrakill, a random indie game where you go to hell. That is interesting, but what makes it special, you may ask? Well, it has an interesting gameplay, good guns, and a great music. So first things off, we start with the most important thing to talk about, the gameplay. You have your basic FPS movement like walking, jumping, and sliding, but in addition you have a dash that consumes one stamina bar, wall jump, and a ground slam. You also get a melee attack that, if you time right, can parry enemy projectiles. Dash works like any other dashes in many games. You just press shift and you move way fast. It consumes one stamina bullet. You have 3 stamina bars, and there is also other thing that consumes. Like when you shift and jump, it consumes 2 stamina bars for a big boost in movement. And if you hold control while ground slamming, you can slam the ground harder, but it consumes also 2 stamina blips. The wall jump has a limit of 3 jumps, and when it comes to other stuff like your health, you have 100 hit points. However, you can recover hit points by being up close to enemies and quite richly absorbing their blood. And now we move on to the second most important thing in the game. The guns. Well, the game starts you off with the simple revolver which has a charge shot. It works like many charge shots, you hold the right button and pew goes a stronger shot. But Ultrakill isn't a normal game. It has other attachments for your weapons. The second attachment, what it does is you can throw out coins, and if you shoot the coin it aimbots to the closest enemy and deals more damage. If you time it right, you can actually make enemies blow up by stopping their charged attacks. Now let's move on to the second gun, the shotgun. Well, like many other games, it is a good weapon to use. Now, the first attachment is, your standard charge up to fire an explosion. How the charge works is quite simple. The longer you charge, the much farther the explosion can be shot off, so you can use that wisely. You can obviously combo it by ground slamming a back of enemies and then shooting it up as the enemies are in the air, pretty satisfying. But the second attachment for the shotgun is far more interesting. It's pretty much a pump charge, so you pretty much pump up the shotgun so that it has more pellets, which is pretty nice. However, if you overpump the shotgun, it can explode to your face. If you're smart enough, you can actually avoid it by timing your dash correctly, but I wouldn't recommend using it for new players. Also, you can use the explosion to kill enemies that are near you. You'll survive because they only takes half of your health. I will also add that you can punch the shotgun pellets so that it may cause explosions. Now, the third gun, you may wonder what it is. Well, it is a rail gun. It pretty much works like your standard minigun, but instead of firing bullets, it fires nails, which you can use to damage the enemies. The first attachment allows you to place a magnet for the nails to attract, which you can set up a nice burst bubble that enemies can walk in, or you can place them on enemies to guarantee your shots. The second attachment, however, is it's an overcharge shot where you can use your gun overheating so that you can output way more bullets, dealing more damage. In addition, you can combo 2 attachments to create a massive damage area. The fourth gun is a rail cannon. That is quite different from other guns because you only have one shot before it has to recharge, so better use other guns while it's recharging. The first firing option available is your standard rail shot, which is a straight beam that will pierce through every enemy until the shot hits a wall. The second option is a drill that allows you to siphon some blood from enemies. I haven't used the second one much because I am the type who wants instant damage. The third firing option, which unlike the other 3 guns, it has 3 firing options, is a big explosion shot, which, like any other explosion in games, can damage you, but that's besides the point. It is very useful if you see a pack of enemies heading towards you, or a nifty pack. Alright, enough of the gun talk, let's move on to the gameplay aspect that is one of the more important thing, that is your style meter. Well, style meter can go from the destructive rank to a self-proclaimed Ultrakill rank, which is quite neat. You can obviously get it by damaging enemies and doing stylish moves like staying in the air or sliding all over the ground to keep up your modifier. The style meter is one of the components that matter towards your ranking at the end of the level. You have time, style meter, and how many kills you got, each one getting a rank from D to S. If you get all S ranks without having to resort to checkpoint, you will get P rank, which is P for perfect. Well, when it comes to the gameplay, I have to say myself, it doesn't feel like anything is punishing you for your decisions, so if you die or you mess up, it's really your fault. I will also add that if you get hit, your style meter goes down a ranking, so be careful. Better to avoid getting hit if possible. When it comes to enemies, really the enemies have their like two main types you will encounter during your gameplay, which is the rushdown and the projectile ones. Those are your basic, like the rushdown there are like two main rushdown types, that is the flamethrower guys and simple zombies. When it comes to projectile guys, there is a lot of more. There's one flying one that acts similar to Cacos in Doom, and there are imp-likes and tougher imp-likes. There are also tougher, which at first act like bosses, but later down the line get introduced like as a common enemy you can fight. They aren't as tough as the first time you fight them, because of you having bigger equipment to use. Let's move on to the graphics now. Well, the game has rather simple graphics, and it isn't quite, you know, good looking like Doom or any other AAA game, but it's an indie game, what do you expect? In addition, it has a filter that makes it look like a PS1 game. I mean, if you want, you can use it. I prefer my screen to be clean, but then, the game looks pretty good. It definitely has a style. When it comes to music, it's pretty varied. You have some classical tunes, you have some rock. I'm not an expert on music, but I know that it works surprisingly well for the game, and it definitely some tracks give me the right pump to destroy my enemies with style. Alright, let's move on to the spoiler section. Jump to this timestamp if you want to avoid spoilers. So yeah, let's jump into it. So first thing I want to start off is levels. Each level is varied and is different. It either introduces a new enemy, a gameplay thingy, or a new environment. Now let's move on to bosses. In the prelude there are really 3 bosses, which is 2 of them becoming standard enemies after you defeat them, and 1 of them still unknown if he becomes an enemy. Well, 2 of the bosses that become enemies are the Cerberus statue that you fight at the end of prelude, and Malicious Face that you fight in the first level. Really, what I have to say, Malicious Face, all you have to do is just dodge his projectiles. He doesn't move, so it's rather simple, and just shoot it until it dies, really. The Cerberus is far more mobile, but still a bullet sponge, really simple to deal with if you can avoid. Now, third boss, which you encounter in the middle of Prelude. His name is Sword Machine. Sword Machine is far more an interesting boss. It actually requires to move around and be careful when to strike. In the first layer, which is called the Limbo, you also get 3 bosses. One of them being a secret encounter. Well, when it comes to the first boss, it's a giant scorpion that you kinda have to focus. Only the meaty bits can be damaged. The second boss is in the same level area and it is a secret encounter. Pretty much 2 sword machines that you have to take out close to each other so that they don't revive themselves. And the third. Oh boy, the third one.
Hello there, you inferior fucker.
The third one is generally one of the best bosses currently in the game. One of the 2 top bosses. He is V2. Pretty much he acts similarly to your player character. Similarly, the difference is he cannot heal from being up close, and he has way more health than you. But you can take him out. When you defeat him, he drops a new arm. That you're defeating V2, you get a second punch, which is far more tougher, and if you hold the punch button, you can make a shockwave that will damage enemies around the area. But that one cannot parry though, so be careful. In the second layer, which is called Last, there is only really 1 boss that you fight. And it is the big guy that you see in the background in most of the levels, and at the 4th level you have to fight the big guy. I will add that you can parry his punch to damage. But really, all you have to do is just move around and the third layer called Gluttony. Well, it houses pretty tough boss.
Sheen, turn back now. The layers of this palace are not for your kind. Turn back, or you will be crossing the will of God. Choice is made. As the righteous hand of the Father, I shall rend you apart, and you will become inanimate once more. Behold, the power of an angel!
Called Gabriel. He is tough to deal with. But doable. I somehow managed to perfect him, which is quite an achievement. On violence also, so yeah, tough one. All you have to do is move around. After you defeat Gabriel, you get Act 2 drop. This is all things I have to say about the spoilers. So let's move on to my last thoughts. Ultrakill is one of the nice surprises, one of those games that I didn't expect too much, but when I picked it up, it was a genuine surprise how good it is. The music, the gameplay, heck, even the story, despite how little it is, it's quite good. Like seriously, like wow. The game is still in early access. It only contains Prelude and Act 1, but it's honestly worth the money. If you like the high action FPSs, I would recommend you buying this game. If you enjoyed this video, you can leave a like and subscribe. This is my first review, maybe last, maybe first, too many. We will see. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye!